I want to tell you about Robin. Before she found the Empowered Business Society, she was buying every course, every workshop, every tool that promised to move the needle, and none of it did. She said the experts she was following were giving her completely contradictory advice, and she had no idea who to listen to. Then she had one real conversation with me inside the membership, and she said it changed her whole trajectory. That's what EBS is built for. It's not another place to pile on information. It's the place where creator business owners actually implement, get real feedback, and stay current on what's working right now in the AI era. We do monthly Get It Done weeks, live coffee chats, member show and tells, and exclusive training that drops straight into the community. Members like Robin, Julie, Anna Joy, and Lane aren't just learning, they're building and growing businesses that are ready for what's coming next. If you're ready to stop figuring it out alone, EBS is $49 a month and you can cancel anytime. Come check it out at society.empoweredbusiness.co and let's build something meaningful together. The link will be in the show notes. Now let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome back to the Empowered Business Podcast. I'm your host, Monica Froese, and I've got something a little different for you this week. Back in June, I hosted a live session during AI Exposed, my AI summit, and I sat down with Sandra Booker, who works as a fractional COO for online service providers. And what Sandra built is honestly one of the coolest AI use cases I've seen all year, her own AI advisory board. She's got 6 board members inside Claude, each one modeled after a real business mind, each with their own expertise, their own personality, and their own job to do when she's making a big decision in her business. One of them is basically there to remind her that she needs to actually sell things and make money. Another one exists purely to challenge her so that AI just doesn't tell her what she wants to hear. We sat in on one of her real board meetings live, working through whether she should relaunch one of her programs. So you're going to hear exactly how this works, step by step, and how you could build your own version of it, even if it's just you running your business solo. This was recorded live, so it's a little less polished than my usual episodes, but the content was so good, I wanted to bring it to you here too. Let's get into it.
Sandra, welcome to AI Exposed. I'm super excited to have you here.
I am so excited to be here. It's going to be so good.
Can you tell us what exactly you're going to be showing us today?
Yes. So I am going to be showing you my AI advisory board, which is a group of 6 very specific personalities that help me pressure test every single decision that I face in my business.
I feel like as soon as I get off of this call, I don't have another call today, and I'm probably going to do this because I'm in the midst of coming up with my next big thing. And, with Claude all morning about it, and I'm like, but I don't know if it's pushing back on me. It's just agreeing with me. And I'm guessing that this is to overcome that. And it has specialized knowledge.
Yeah, it's to overcome that, but it is really hard to overcome that because it's just ingrained in AI to be sycophantic, to be overly agreeable because they want it to be a happy experience so that people use it more. So it is something that you have to sometimes remind it, like, stop doing that. But yes, it pushes back on you. And also it gives you really distinct perspectives that you personally need in your business, the to cover the weak spots that you might have.
Right. Okay. I already have so many questions, but before we dive into the mechanics behind this and how you actually go about making your AI advisory board, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and what you do?
Yeah. So I work as a fractional COO for online service providers, people who are outwardly successful. They have a product or a service. They know how to make money. They just can't figure out how to scale it. And it's typically because they're missing foundational systems in their business. So mostly I have some clients I work with regularly, but mostly I go into people's businesses. I do a deep dive audit of all of their systems. Even if you think you don't have a system, you are running a system. It's just probably not a good one. So I highlight what is the system you're currently running on, your processes, your people, your tools, all of that. And I highlight where the friction is, like what is the actual underlying cause, and help you fix it.
And how long have you been doing this for?
I've been doing it for about 14 years, but I've officially moved as a branded as a fractional COO about 2 years ago.
And when did you embrace AI for it?
I've been using AI since basically since ChatGPT was publicly released. I started using AI for me and my business personally, and really started uh, playing with it hard this year. Now that the agents are coming along a little bit better now.
So I tell everyone, I listen to the everyday, like it is, and it just seems like it happened overnight that all of a sudden it became something that maybe like really techie people got. And now it's like you don't really have to have a tech background to get AI to do things for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm gonna guess your AI advisory board, is it made up of skills, Claude
Yeah.
skills?
Yeah.
Okay. So that being said, then was it ever a custom GPT based at all before skills became a thing?
No, I tried building out a version for like as a custom GPT last year, and it just wasn't great. So I kind of abandoned that idea for a while. And then yeah, it was back in February this year that I went, oh yeah,
No.
now maybe I can do something like that, and I've not looked back since.
So before we jump into the AI advisory board, what were you using AI for prior to this to help your clients?
So prior to this, what I was mostly using AI for to help my clients was doing some research, doing analysis of large data sets, things like that. Did not have any real automated, like AI powered automations in there. Um, so it was mostly me running like in the chat window saying, hey, can you assess this data
Right.
and can you do all of this stuff for it?
Now, the system that you have set up, once you have the skills created, and I'm assuming you're going to explain to us how you would go about creating these skills unique to your own business, you can run you can run it in just the regular Claude chat, right? You don't even need co-work for this.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. All right. So talk to us about who, all right, are we going to call them who? Are we going to call them bots? I don't know. Who makes up this AI advisory board?
So my advisory board specifically has 6 people in it, and those people are based off of real people out in the world. Yeah. And so that you could get the personality and like what their how they would
Expertise.
talk, their expertise, but also how they would talk to me, and where they might agree and where they would disagree with me. So, and most of them are people I've not heard of.
Interesting.
Um, so one of them is somebody named David Baker, and acts as my chair. So positioning, strategic direction, like architecting the business, that kind of thing. Then there is Blair Enns. Blair Enns, he is my chief revenue officer. So he's the one that reminds me that I actually have to,
Make
sell
money?
things and make money and and do things. His focus is pricing and proposals and sales conversations, revenue offer structure, that kind of thing. I have Dory Clark, who is chief marketing officer. So helping with visibility, authority, content, thought leadership, all of that fun stuff. And then Mike, I always pronounce his name wrong, Mike Michaelwicz.
Mm,
Um, and he is my CFO, so he's the one that's like
the
talking to me
profit first
about
guy.
yeah. So profitability, cash flow, all of that. And then Daniel Priestley, who is my chief intellectual property officer. So he's the one that reminds me that everything I do can be packaged up into a framework, and that he helps me productize my methodologies and see where there's a scalable offer and make sure that I'm, thinking about my IP as IP.
So if some of these people you didn't even know before they became the backbone of these agents, uh, how did you determine who was going to be who you were going to model each agent after?
So the way I did it was I started having a conversation with Claude. And the first thing is I gave Claude all of the information about my business, about, what I do, who I do it for, what are my offerings, what are my price points, what's my profitability, like all of the information about the business and what are my goals are and all of that. Then I gave it everything about me. So the results of every personality test I've ever taken. So like my strength finders, my disc assessment, my human design, my Enneagram, all of that. And I told it a little bit about me as a person. So extremely introverted, social anxiety, all of these things. Uh, and then I said, based off of what you know about the business and me, and what my expertise is, and where I'm trying to get to, what roles should I consider having if I was to create an advisory board? What roles should I consider having? So first I figured out what roles I should have.
Okay.
Um, and it asked me a few questions, and then it said, okay, I recommend these roles. And then from there, um, I said, okay, great. And then who out in the real world, or if not in the real world, like what type of knowledge and skills and personality should these people have? And it recommended 2 or 3 people per role. And then I just picked of those. And some of them I might have been like, oh, that person, but also with a little bit of this person. So I had some of them are amalgamations of a couple of different people or a couple of different personality traits. But yeah, I just had Claude kind of do all of the research, and then I just kind of picked. Um,
Okay.
and then at one point in time, I added an extra person beyond the ones I just mentioned, because during a board meeting, they gave me some advice, and I was just like, this goes against my nature as an introvert. And so I realized I was missing that kind of person who has that knowledge. So now I have like a chief human strategy officer kind of person who knows all about being an introvert and neurodivergence and all of that stuff, and can speak to that and help me figure out how to implement the advice the rest of the board might be giving me.
So if
My goal was to give the AI a really structured funnel to go down to have when it's talking about um my finances or my revenue or whatever. So I had it create a skill that just talked about in general the type of knowledge this person has, the type of expertise they have, what their guardrails are, like the lane that they stay in. Already looked up some main frameworks, but like frameworks from that person, but also just general business frameworks. Like these are the frameworks that I use in my business. What are the other ones should I be thinking about? Um, and then also, how should these interact um, with the other board members?
okay.
So who is keeping who on their toes? Who is shoring up whose weak side, that kind of thing. So yeah, it was very simplistic in that way, because I didn't want to try and recreate somebody else in my business. I just am trying to create guardrails to allow the AI to work within it.
Okay. So are each of these roles its own skill or they sit in a boardroom skill?
So they're each their own skill.
Okay.
So every single one of them is their own skill. And then I have a board meeting skill that tells that I can run to bring all of them in, and it tells the system like how to run a board meeting. Like we start with an agenda, and then they ask me questions about topic one, and then they give me their insights on topic one, and then so on and so forth until the agenda's done.
Okay.
And then I put them all together into a project just so that I have all of my chats in one spot.
So I want to see the behind the scenes. I want to see how this works. And I think that will help a lot. Like when we see it, I feel like it will connect a lot of dots because it seems a little abstract right now, but seeing it actually, like we're going to go through a boardroom meeting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
go through a boardroom meeting.
Yeah, let's do it.
And awesome. Yeah, and they are each individual skills because also sometimes I want to have a conversation and I don't need everybody in there. Or sometimes there might just be oops, there might just be one person that I need to talk to. Okay, so Claude. Whether to relaunch my Scale Society program. So Scale Society is my group program. I tend to relaunch it once a year, and help me figure out, is this worth my time doing right now? The last time I asked it this, it told me no, so we'll see.
Well, that would be very fascinating then to see if we arrive at a different conclusion.
Yeah, well, it told me no for a different time period. So now I'm asking for, is this something I should be doing in the fall? So the first thing it's going to do is, so in my project instructions, I tell it to reference Google Drive. I have my headquarters in Google Drive. My original board, I will say, was I did build it out in Cowork, and I liked it in Cowork because it was easier for it to keep my master docs updated. But it was obviously I did not like that I couldn't access it from my other computers, so that was
Yeah,
annoying.
that is definitely a limitation of cowork that I hope they figure out how to fix.
Yeah, it's really annoying. So what's happening here is that the chair is just saying what it is that we're trying to talk about today. So he's reiterating the question, and he's just saying, okay, so we're going to try for an April thing. We decided not to do it. Then each of my people ask a question. You can set it up so that one question is asked and then answered and more of a conversation, but you eat up way more tokens that way. So I just have them all ask me their initial questions and then I'll just go through and answer them. So um, we decided not to do the April launch. Um, and when I'm talking about Scale Society, I'm want it to relaunch in its existing form, but maybe with some edits, maybe bringing in some AI into it. This is not going to be the best board meeting because I'm doing this live, but and then Blair is asking me, like, what's the primary reason you want to run Scale Society in August specifically? And it is a nice little boost of revenue, and I haven't done it in a year, and I want to do it. Dory is asking me, who you're selling Scale Society to in August. Has the audience shifted? My audience has not shifted at all. Though I do have quite a few new people on my list. I have more than 1,000 new people on the list, so it's a fresher audience to sell to, people who haven't heard of it yet. And then Mike's asking me, what does August launch actually cost you in time and money? So the cost of running Scale Society is very, very low. It might cost me maybe $2,400 in total of hours. Daniel's asking me, has the program format itself been the constraint on enrollment? No, the constraint on enrollment was the lack of new people in my list. So I hadn't been doing list building for quite a long time. So people had seen the offer quite a lot, which resulted in, not having as many people enroll the last couple of times I ran it. And then Dr. Nalini, she's my chief human strategy person. So then she's just asking me, like, do you have the capacity to basically do this? Yes, I have the capacity to do it. I'm excited to do it. I push back. And then it'll say like where the board agrees and then where the board disagrees. So I can see where people
Blair versus everyone else.
yeah. And then the chair comes in and he says, okay, so based off of all of that, here's what we'd recommend doing. So, make a list of everything you want to change, think about Blair's thoughts, and then figure out the one next step. So then at the end, it says, hey, are we good to hand it off to the secretary? And
Who's
I'll
the
say,
secretary?
yep, hand it to the secretary.
And this is
I
another skill that's going to be called in.
Yeah. The secretary is another skill and document the decisions that we've made. It'll
And
highlight any questions that might still be existing. It highlights all the action items. And then when I'm ready, it will put any action items into ClickUp, all of my decisions into my decision um, space in ClickUp so that I have a record of it. And then I will usually have it update the master docs as well, but sometimes it sometimes struggles to update the Google Drive. So
well, I will say one thing that already this solves for me. I mean, it solves a lot because I do think I need to design something for there to be more pushback, especially when I'm making big decisions, like I'm trying to make literally right before this call. Um, so that, but then also, I don't know if you experienced this. I just was talking to a few people about this, that Claude search is awful. Like it's so hard to recall conversations that maybe you had like a month ago.
yeah.
And I don't do a good job at once I make a decision, like bringing it somewhere and putting it somewhere that's easily accessible. Because I think the reason I don't, even if it's a little bit of an annoyance, is I work a lot in projects. So, it will update memory and stuff like that. But that's really a good idea once you make these big decisions to pull it into like a central repository.
Yeah, yeah, and I pull it into that central repository because you're right, the search on Claude is terrible. But ClickUp, like I use ClickUp, and it has the ClickUp brain, which is really good because I can ask a question in ClickUp and it will look at all of my notes and it'll go, oh, based off of this meeting back here, I think this. And it's just, I find it way easier to find information and access it and ask questions about it and all of that. So,
Okay, so my tactical brain's coming in now because I get the strategy. Like I get why we'd want this. It makes perfect sense to me. But my brain is like, and maybe this is, does your freebie cover, does it actually tell us what to do to create this up on our own?
yeah, it walks you through said to on how to do it and tells you that it has to be skills and all that. Yeah.
So where, like at the end of the day, what am I ending up with? Like to do this properly, how many skills do I have? And how many other tools am I calling in to make this happen?
So, the skills you have is one for each board member. So that could be 3 to 5 or 3 to 6. I would not have more than 6 people on your board. Um, and so that's one skill for each of them. And then you have your board secretary skill, and you have your board meeting skill. Um, and those are the only skills. And then you have the only tools that I use now because it's in Google Drive and it's in a chat, so it accesses the Google Drive connector and my ClickUp connector.
Okay, so skill, they're all their own skill, but all your conversations are in a project. And then you have project instructions that tell it how to function. But what are your
So
project instructions?
yeah, so the project instructions, I'll show you because the board meeting tells them how to run the meeting. But I don't always call an official board meeting. I might just pop into the chat and start asking questions. So the board instructions are telling it, you are the board. Yeah, yeah, for sure. So you are, the chair's desk of Sandra Booker's AI advisory board. So it tells it like it is the board. Load this context first. These are all the source of truth. There's extra reference files here that you can access as needed. The board should always challenge Sandra's assumptions and ideas, should never be sycophantic. When I name an advisor, so it just tells it like if I start the board. Like if I'm just naming an advisor, you can talk to that advisor. Otherwise, just bring in whoever needs to be brought in. It has an quick overview of each of the people. And then it mentions for a full board meeting, you bring in everybody. And then it says how to route the person. So like if I'm like, hey, ask David this, what would Blair think? Pull Nalini in. It's just invoking the single advisor. So it's just giving it overview of that. It goes over the meeting protocol again for them. This is technically in the skill, but I want it to, even when I'm talking just as a regular chat, I want it to ask me questions first instead of just giving me advice. So I put the meetings there too. And then like I don't want hand holding. I want directness, sharp questions, honest honest pushback, don't over explain. If I've already made a decision and we've talked about the decision, don't keep reopening it, because early on like it would just keep reopening the same kind of decisions and like, are you sure about this? And I'm like, yeah, we stop it, you know. And then it's like what not to do, don't invent things. Do not close a meeting without handing it off to the secretary. So all of
And
those
you
things.
update the instructions as you come across things that it's doing that like what you just said, you go into the instructions and you say, don't do this, start doing that type of stuff.
Yeah, depending on what it is, yeah, I'll put it in instructions. Or if it's just one of the advisors that's going rogue, then I just edit one of the advisor skills.
Okay, can you show us the skills?
Yeah, it's very different. So here's my chief marketing officer. So it kind of gives an overview of like, what this is for, how it gets triggered, um, explains who the person is. It reminds it where reference materials are. Because sometimes I might just be talking to this person and not in anywhere else. So just in case, like it's in a chat that's doesn't it, if I'm in a chat, not a project that has access to the things, it'll know where to look. It gives them a brief view of like who they are, their core beliefs, communication style, how they are to advise me. So always start with a question, evaluate against the long game. She's going to check my positioning alignment, all of that stuff, plan for sustainability, and then relationship with other board members. So like her and David are deeply aligned on the importance of positioning. So it's just kind of like highlighting where the two intersect and where maybe they don't.
Well,
Go
as you
ahead.
built this out then, so obviously you had to start with one of them and then move on. So would you have, every time you built a new advisor, would you have it go back and update the skills for the other advisors you've already built?
So honestly, I was on the max plan when I built this, so I did not build one at a time. A big conversation with Claude, explained exactly what I was looking to accomplish, explained that I want these people to act as if they are people in a room together where they react to each other, and that I wanted them to, I didn't want overlap in places. Like if two people, like for instance, if two people are covering positioning, like one of them should focus on this, one of them might focus on that, or they like push back on each other or whatnot. So I just told it what I was trying to mimic in boards before. I wanted all of the good things about a board without all of the negative things about a board. Negative things about a board is that nobody can make a decision. So
That is so true.
yeah. So I really explained it, and then I said, okay, can you create each board member as its own individual skill that I can install? And it created all of them. And then I just reviewed and like tweaked as needed. I have not updated them since adding the chief human advisor.
Mhm.
Because I don't feel like I need to specify between them, but like I didn't need to specify like, oh, how are you going to react with this person? Because that person is more of a, okay, Sandra, based off of what they said, here's what I think, you would do. But if it was something where this person really needs to interact with these people in a specific way, then yeah, I'd probably just make sure that I go and update those skills if to make sure that they talk to each other right.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Nicole's question and then I have a question. So Nicole says, do they talk to each other, like create a chat with each other? I would get a trip out of that. I'm going to guess like you could absolutely just pit them against each other if you wanted to, right? You could start a chat and be like,
I imagine you could. I never
yeah,
have tried that, but I imagine you could. I haven't noticed it doing anything like that where it's on its own saying, "Oh, I'm going to put, Nalini and Dory together and have them hash this out." They really are they they talk to each other only in that they will reference each other's points. So often, like Dory will go, all right, well, the one thing that nobody else has seen is that Sandra can turn this into that. And that's why. So sometimes they'll make my point for me, which I find absolutely fascinating that the
real.
AI is not just repeating the same thing over and over again. It is literally going, well, what the thing that this person didn't see is this.
It immediately consume all of your tokens.
Yeah. Yeah,
I would,
exactly.
I know you set them off to do their own thing, and before you know it, Claude's like, "You are out. You come back in 3 hours."
Come back in 3 hours. Come back in 30 days. Like,
Okay, so I want to make sure we get to the question of what problems that board members have solved in your clients' businesses and any other unique use cases you've seen in different businesses. But I really want to know the CFO, Mike. Does he have access to like your QBO? What is he pulling? How does he know your profitability and revenue and stuff?
I just update it regularly in my master doc. That's how he knows whatever's happening. I did not give him read access to QuickBooks because I didn't think it was necessary.
I'm the same.
My goals and stuff, and I just like pop it into my master doc. This has changed.
Okay, so now to your clients. So have you experienced with your clients finding any other different type of board member that was unique to their business? And then what kind of results have they gotten from implementing this?
Yeah, I let my clients, they talk to their own boards. So I don't have any case studies or anything. I've had all of them come back to me and just say, "Oh my gosh, this is freaking amazing." It
Mhm.
is I have been sitting with this decision or avoiding this decision or been unsure about this decision for months or years, and I finally know what I need to do. That's probably like the number one thing that I've seen across the board. Get having the confidence to move forward on something that you didn't have the confidence to move forward on before. Yeah.
How do you decide for your clients who the like what advisors they need and who they should mimic for their businesses?
The exact same way I did it for me is I feed in like so each of my clients have their own project, their own space that I talk to in. I give it all the information about them. So like with when I was doing Tarzan's board of directors, I'm very familiar with Tarzan's business already. So I knew a lot about her and the business, but I just I have that uh, curate the room offer where if somebody needs help building a board, I have a full intake form. They just fill in all of their business details, and then I use that to create the board the exact same way I created it for myself, which is just feeding it all of the details and then working with Claude to figure out what the best person is. So when I did it with Tarzan, one of the big things is with Tarzan, her whole business is, I don't know if anybody knows Tarzan, but Tarzan Cave. Um, and uh, hearing from a diverse group of people, really understanding, you know, people's privileges and, things like that. So it was really important for her to have a really diverse lived experience in her board. So that was extremely highlighted, and that pulled people like I had never heard of, so many people that I had never heard of. Some people, many people I have. And then I just built a board for somebody who has it's more like a kind of like luxury kind of brand. And their marketing is way different than the marketing that needs to happen for most of my clients. And it's way more about, building that brand and that identity. And like they're not doing digital marketing in the traditional sense. And all of their board members were, none of them, I think only one of them was like a traditional like CFO. Everybody else was like a non-traditional board seat that
Oh,
specialized in luxury marketing, branding, goods, all of that.
when you mentioned Tarzan wanting diversity, I was like, because it did strike me when you were giving me the names, a lot of them seem to align to he. Um, I think I really need it. I also really want a diverse one. So
Yeah.
I'm going to try to articulate my conflict here. So I've mentioned a few times, but for anyone who doesn't know, I grew up in corporate tech. Like that was before I took the business full time a decade ago. And I was exposed to not great things in the boardroom, I will say. Very toxic stuff. Um, and I probably could have a whole podcast about it, to be honest with you. It
Yeah.
was a big driver for me to start my own business. Um, I just didn't like the way things were done. And it was a publicly traded company too. So that just added another layer of complexity. It was just cutthroat, lots of stuff.
Yeah.
So I noticed while there was a lot of toxic things being done in the boardroom, men also have a very, it's like I want to channel how they think of things without their toxic stuff, though. You know what I mean? Like, and that's really important to me because, like, I feel like they're, they go for what they want. Women hesitate a lot more, but I also want women to shine too with their expertise. Like it's just such an interesting, it's hard for me to articulate. It's really hard for me to articulate if you've never been in a boardroom with this happening because the dynamics are wild to watch, especially when you're in your 20s and you still don't really
Yeah.
know that much. And you're like, I could see what was going on, but it really took me being removed from it and getting older and having kids to be like, that was awful. That was
Yeah.
really awful the way people treat each other, and the way they handle each other. And so I'm just trying to think for myself, how can I make sure that I want the opinion, I want the good, like you said, I want the good side. How do you make sure you get the good side out of it without all this crap? I don't want the
Yeah.
crap.
Before I picked anybody for my board, I did look at them and like, are these people who are saying anything that I disagree with fundamentally? Um, all of the people that I have, none of them are people that I would like, if I saw them on a YouTube channel, I'd be like, "Pff, that guy," and go away.
You'd be like Dave Ramsey. He can stay away from me.
Yeah, yeah, there's lots of them. Like, I'm just be like, no. Um, so all you have to do is like, um, so one, tell Claude that, like, I don't want anybody that's going to do X, Y, and Z. I value people who treat people like this. Um, and I don't want anybody who would ever treat anybody like this or say things like that. Like, just tell it what you're looking for. And it is really good at finding really good examples out in the wild for you.
Yeah, because while I haven't gotten to the point where well, I really publicly talked about some of the things I experienced, which I hope one day I do get to that point because I think it's a really important conversation to have. I'm just not comfortable yet doing it. But I would be comfortable telling Claude. So maybe I should actually share with Claude some of the things that I witnessed that I
Yeah.
really disagree with.
Yeah.
And so it can steer clear.
Yeah. And then the other thing I'd say is like when I'm looking at when I looked at what got brought in to the skills, I didn't see any major like, oh, that is such a male toxic idea. Or anything like that. So I would also suggest if that is something that you are potentially sensitive to, give them names that are androgynous or just non-names. So just call them your chair, your CFO. And
Yeah.
one, it'll be easier to call them because you can just say, I need to talk to my CFO.
Mhm.
But two, as you hear their responses, you won't immediately have preloaded any any bias or any thoughts. So it will, like, anybody, I'd say, like, anybody who might be sensitive to that because of history or whatever, give them
I like
non-differentiating
that.
names.
I probably will rename. Yeah, I like that.
There, that would be a good place to start. And if you have any, like, if anybody has any questions, feel free to, like, hit me up. So if you're not, in case you're not familiar, Claude has a skill creating skill
Now
now.
it's come up.
Um, so honestly, like, you're not, you can tell it to say, oh, I want to make sure I include X, Y, and Z in all of the skills. But the way I built it, I did not, I wanted it to build it the way it thought it would best, I would best be served by what I told it I needed. And it did a really good job that way. So I would say, like, the people who have come to me and said, I just built my board, I think that's pretty much what they're doing. Is they're not overly guiding it and trying to be the master of the creation.
That's
um
important, I think. That's the whole point. The point is that it does have like it is able to kind of have a mind of its own and challenge you. That's the whole point of a committee is
exactly.
to challenge the idea. I like that. I am going to implement this. But who knew? It's so funny when certain things bring up stuff for you. You're
Yeah.
like, huh, boardroom, bad experiences. And now it's like almost giving me permission to how can I implement this in a positive way for myself?
Yeah, exactly. Rewrite that history and have a positive board experience. Because yeah, I've had plenty of terrible board experiences. And um yeah, what I love about my board is that, one, I am always the absolute deciding factor in the end. I am
Yes.
the biggest voice in that room. It doesn't matter what they do. And they are just there to advise me. Um and
Ultimately,
yeah.
you run the ship. It is your business. It helps you get it helps with when you're doing it by yourself and you don't have anyone to bounce the ideas off of.
Yeah.
You might think something's an incredible idea, but you don't know what you don't know. And they're meant to challenge your critical thinking, which I'll take it a step further and say that, I know there's been a lot of talk about is AI going to ruin our critical thinking? And I think for some people it might. It depends how you use it, but this is another way to help it to increase your critical thinking, not because ultimately, and maybe that's something you have built into the boardroom meeting. And if not, I would probably build it into mine, which is ultimately we make the final decision. Like the decision's not up to you, it's up to me. You are there to guide me to make that decision in a critical thinking way.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't bother putting in who gets to make the final decision because the tool just naturally, it already knows I'm the boss, right? So
Yeah.
I didn't bother reiterating that. It was just I thought, um an unnecessary addition. What I really loved about it, the thing that I was so helpful for me, was that, one, so I'm a people pleaser. I am not one to ask for help. I am here to help people. So I'm that person who's like, I don't want to be a bother. I don't, you can tell me, oh, if you need anything, ask me. You can tell me that every single day. I'm never going to ask you for anything. Like, I struggle to do that. So I struggle to go in, like, even when I'm in a mastermind, I'm always struggling to ask for help. I never want to take up too much space. So it's always hard to give people all of the context they need in order to help me make a decision. Even when somebody has all the context, they might not have all of the knowledge and the expertise and skills themselves.
Mhm.
I don't have unlimited amounts of money to just hire these people. And all of the people on my board, for the most part, are people that you couldn't even hire to have a consultation with. They're like people, they don't do that.
Yeah.
So, um, so yeah, and then even when you do find people to talk to, like, sometimes it's like those people have a vested interest. Like, if you're talking to a coach, they have a vested interest in you using their frameworks and getting a good result,
That's a good point.
you
Yeah.
know? If you talk to a team member, they have a vested interest in you liking them and keeping them keeping them hired, you know? So, and you're talking to friends and family, you have to worry about like if somebody tells you the worst idea ever, now you have to manage their feelings. Like, how do you tell them, it's a bad idea?
Yeah.
You know, like, so this board, I don't have to worry about their feelings. I don't have to, you know, they don't have any vested interest in anything that I do. I can just speak freely. And like the number of times I've told Blair, like, no,
Get
Blair,
lost.
you totally missed the point. Like,
I love it. Okay, let me just wrap up these comments real quick, and then we'll just do a final what your freebie is and how people can find you. The board meeting skill, does the board meeting skill include a description of how the board members are supposed to interact?
the board meeting skill, I'm actually looking because I can't remember. The board meeting skill, no, it's just about how the no, it's just about how the meeting runs. So it goes over, I can show you this too. This might be helpful to see. So this is the board meeting skill. So again, it tells it where to reference the master context. It says who's in the board. Um, and then it kind of gives an overview of what the board does. So it says like we're setting the agenda, what happens if there's just one thing, what happens if there's more than one thing. It talks about the question phase for each topic because I always want them to ask me questions. And then follow-up questions if needed. So sometimes they will actually, depending on what I've said, they'll go, oh, like, you know, there's other questions. But I don't want to have endless questions. So it's like there's a maximum number of questions they can
I like
ask
that.
me. Yeah. Um, this is staying on topic. So David's primary job as chair is to stay on topic because sometimes as you're answering, you might say something. And if you don't have them, so I'd say if you don't have anything else in your thing, you have to have this, having the chair keep you on topic because the AI will naturally uh follow rabbit holes. It will naturally like go, oh, you said this, so I'm gonna start a conversation about that. And I'm like, no, that's not the topic. So and then it talks about like the discussion phase, so what each person is discussing, like focusing on, and then basically the wrap up, so chairs synthesis. And then this is the only thing where it highlights how they interact, and this is just highlighting common tensions to expect, so like David versus Daniel, Blair versus Dory, Mike versus Daniel. So these are the common things where they're probably not going to agree. And then the wrap up is like moving to the next agenda item if there's more than one, or closing off and handing it to the secretary if we're done.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm definitely doing this. Okay.
You can always find me on Instagram under Sidekick COO as well.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing this. And I will report back to you after I do my boardroom and run through my big decision about how it turned out.
Yeah, anybody who leaves here and goes and creates your boardroom, please, please, please email me and tell me how it went. I really want to hear it.
Yes, we will do that.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thanks so
Sandra.
much, Monica.
Yeah. Bye.